In today's video, we have all the latest NHL trade talk as we're one day closer to the NHL trade deadline. Today, we're looking at the potential of the deal between the Flames and the Devils regarding Jacob Markstrom maybe having a chance to happen after all, according to one insider. Could happen this week coming. We also have the latest updates on the future of Marc-Andre Fleury in Minnesota. What are the New York Rangers up to ahead of the deadline, and where's Noah Hanifin's most likely landing spot? We also have some injury updates as well. Big news in Pittsburgh today. Jagr has been on the ice for practice. Big Stadium Series game tonight going down as well between the Flyers and Devils. All that and more coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, we have a variety of NHL news and some trade rumors to take a look at here today on a Saturday night with a very busy NHL schedule. Jagr is in town with Pittsburgh, of course, having his number retirement ceremony tomorrow night at the Penguins game. And today, he hung out with the Penguins and attended their practice and went on the ice. It was quite a sight to see him full up in Pens gear on the ice, playing around the puck, having fun. A lot of the Penguins players were wearing their Jagr mullets to honor him as well. It was kind of a funny sight. But the fact that he still plays in Europe, really to this day, where his team in Kladno, and how he looked out there, I mean, I know he's not likely going to make an NHL return at this stage of his life, but man, I tell you, just the nostalgia certainly couldn't help but bring back a lot of memories, and it was just cool to see him in his old Pens gear, and be fun to see that retirement ceremony go down tomorrow night. Obviously, I wasn't surprised to see him in town given what's going down this weekend, but was surprising to see him actually hop on the ice for practice and kind of participate and hang out with the team in that sense. So it was great to see. I know there was a period of time when there was a strained relationship between the Penguins organization and Jagr. His number deserves to be retired. He deserves to be in the Hockey Hall of Fame. I know the Hall of Fame won't make him eligible because he's technically still playing in Europe as a professional. I think they need to get rid of that and certainly make an exception here given that he's been out of the NHL for an extended time. I mean, it was a 17-18 season when he tried to play with the Calgary Flames, and that only lasted around 20 games or so. And then they parted ways mutually, and that was the end of Jagr in the NHL. We're into 2024 now, so that's been quite some time. We're looking at like over 6 years. So clearly, he still has the passion for the sport, still loves the game. Be nice to see his number retired, and hopefully they can get him into the Hall of Fame here soon as well. Tonight, big game as well. MetLife Stadium Series game tonight between the Devils and the Flyers for the first time ever in NHL history in an outdoor game. We're going to see rookie goaltenders making their debut in an outdoor game and going head-to-head. That's never happened before. So Sammy Ersson of the Philadelphia Flyers and Nico Dawes for the Devils are tending goal for their respective clubs this evening. So it's going to be interesting to see how that goes. Of course, this game is probably already going to be underway by the time this video makes it to YouTube. Of course, as usual during these games, both teams showed up to the stadium ready to play in unique attire. The Devils all showed up dressed kind of like in their jumpsuits like the Sopranos, and the Flyers dressed up like Rocky. So it was kind of pretty cool, interesting options that I think they chose representing their cities that they represent. So hopefully it's a fun game. Of course, the MetLife Stadium has another game going tomorrow, the Battle of New York with the Rangers and Islanders. So back-to-back days on the Stadium Series event in the New York area. So nice to see, and hopefully everything goes well. I know the Jonas Brothers were also performing a concert today as well. So hopefully it's lots of fun, great event, and I hope both rookie goaltenders put on a great show for their respective clubs tonight. Speaking of goaltenders, a veteran goalie who's been trying to get work in the NHL appears to have an option to head over in Europe, and that's UFA goalie Jaro Halak. Apparently he has an offer that he signed in Slovakia, but apparently it sounds like he can wait a little bit, I think, before he heads over. And if an NHL opportunity comes up, I think the next couple of weeks, I think he can get out of that contract and stay. But at this point, he's had PTOs and it hasn't really worked out for him. So I suspect he's going to be over there playing. But I do believe, if I understood correctly, that he can hold off going for a couple of weeks just to see if something comes together. But seems likely he's going to finish out his season, probably his career over in Europe. The Los Angeles Kings today came back in an early matinee affair and beat the Boston Bruins 5-4 in overtime. Rookie defenseman Brant Clarke was in the penalty box during OT, comes out of the box when the penalty expired, gets sprung on a breakaway, dekes out Linus Ullmark for not only the game-winning goal, but his very first ever NHL goal as well. Pretty cool sight. For the Kings rookie, very talented, offensively gifted defenseman, and Brant Clarke getting more of an opportunity and just really picked a great, legendary way, if you will, to make a mark and score your first ever NHL goal. I think everybody will remember their first goal because it's a big moment for them personally, but this one's not only big for him personally, but it's huge for the team as well. To expect a West Coast team to come over all the way to the East Coast and to have that early of a game had to be an incredibly tough adjustment just from the time zone difference. These guys are used to playing the majority of their games in the evening with most of them, 7, 8 o'clock start times, and they're coming over playing that early. That's pretty crazy how early that game was today. If you think about what time their internal clocks were like from when they're used to living in California, that's drastically different. So I understand the schedules were done up today because of just the being a very busy day, and of course the Stadium Series going on tonight. They had a pretty well, decently staggered schedule today. But that had to be tough on the Kings, for sure. So we'll see. Obviously, they picked up a big 2 points. The Bruins have struggled as of late, and I know a lot of their fans are certainly concerned at the pivotal point in the season when they're not doing their best. There's some defensive lapses today, and certainly not a great look. They had a decent lead, too, which they blew. So Bruins are going to want to right the ship here before too long. They can't let this get extended, or it's going to have a major impact on their where they're at in the standings. Obviously, the Panthers are right there with them, so they could drop and get a tougher first round opponent. That 2-3 spot in the Atlantic, I think, will be potentially a real tough battle. Right now, it would be between the Bruins and the Lightning. Could end up being the Bruins and the Leafs because the Lightning and Leafs are super tight there in the standings too, with I believe the Leafs have a game or two in hand. So it's going to be tough. I'm sure if they get a wild card team as the top team in the division would be preferred. So they need to snap out of the funk to have a shot at that, or the Panthers are just going to continue building here and lock that spot up. Speaking of the Leafs tonight, their game's already underway here as well with the Anaheim Ducks, but Captain John Tavares is out of the lineup tonight dealing with some sort of minor injury. The Vancouver Canucks have also called up Archdeep Baines, one of their top prospects, been recalled from Abbotsford. There was some question earlier today if he would end up making his NHL debut tonight. Head coach Rick Taka, though, confirms that will not be the case. He's not absolutely needed to get into the lineup. I think he's more extra security right now. I would imagine it's likely going to be that he gets a game in during this recall stint, but it won't be this evening. He'll have to hold off and wait for his NHL debut. Onto the trade section of the day, sticking with the theme here of the Bruins. The Bruins have been scouting the Calgary Flames extensively as of late, and there's no doubt who their target is. I think it's fair to say in Boston, going into the playoffs, they're probably going to be looking to make a few additions before the NHL trade deadline. I would be willing to say, based on their roster construction, how things have gone, health-wise and everything, that they're probably going to be looking to add a defenseman and a forward. We know they were involved in the Elias Lindholm trade talks, but the asking price was too rich for their blood, and they opted not to participate. I would suspect that they will try to get another center, somebody who can fit with that club, but not break the bank. Maybe Nick Dowd out of Washington could be a much more affordable target. That's somebody to take a look at as well. I know the Sens are possibly looking to move Mark Kastelik, who's a good bottom six center. There's options like that on the market. Guys who can be, physical, play on special teams like the penalty kill, give you some good face-offs and things like that, and, not cost a fortune. Maybe it's going to be that more type of depth center that they add, hard to say. And on the blue line, I have no doubt their primary target will be Noah Hanifin. They've liked this guy for a long, long time. Whether or not he signs an extension with whoever he's dealt to will also dictate if the Bruins and can go after him in the summer if they're not the successful trade partner here of the Flames. But I have no doubt that he's number one on their list. Doesn't mean it's going to happen, but they continue to watch the Flames, continue to watch who I believe to be this player. Based on what we saw today, I think it's fair to say the Bruins could use some more depth on that blue line, and certainly Hanifin brings a lot of things to like. To make that happen, they may have to juggle things cap-wise. It's not going to be the most easy, simple thing to do. Something's likely going to have to come off their roster. So I'm not sure exactly how Don Sweeney navigates that, but it is believed, based on the number of scouts that the Bruins have had at Flames games recently, which is no secret. We've talked about this before, Hanifin being their top target. Whether they're successful, hard to say, because there's a number of other teams also showing different levels of interest. So we'll wait and see where that goes. The Rangers, of course, going to be another top team potentially in the Metro Division right now. We know they're looking to add at the center position, being their primary target. At this point, with the Wheeler injury, they might want to add a winger as well. Again, cap space and asset management is going to be a little bit tricky. It's believed that the owner, James Dolan, does not want them to trade their first-round pick in the 2024 draft, given that the draft's going to be held at the Sphere in Las Vegas, which is something he owns, and he wants his team, the Rangers, to be able to be on stage and be a big player and getting themselves a good player in that first round. So whether or not they end up doing that or not, it's hard to say, but we do have that on good authority that from the owner's wishes that he doesn't want to do that, and we know typically he's a pretty demanding guy, so like what he says goes type of thing. So it's believed though that for the center spots that they're looking for, or a guy who can play center or wing, would be Flyers Scott Lawton. Now, of course, the Flyers and Rangers are both in the top three in the division. It would be kind of weird in a sense to see a trade like that take place, given Philly heading towards the playoffs. Now, of course, there's still no guarantee they make it. They have teams like the Islanders, the Devils, the Penguins still kind of breathing down their neck and trying to push them out of that. It's not going to be easy. They're holding their own and staying in the mix there. They're still looking like a decent odds of getting in. A lot can change one way or another. They could really lock that spot up, or they could fall off a bit if they have a good slide or a bad slide. It's that close. But there's a number of teams that are kind of on their heels there. But if things stay the same, it just would be odd. But we know Danny Briere and the Flyers kind of know they're ahead of schedule. They're doing better than expected this year, and they're not going to waste an opportunity to make the team better for the future over what they think they need for a potential playoff success. Obviously, getting into the playoffs is success for them. Not to say that they wouldn't want to win when they get there. Of course, every team's going to want to do that. But trading Lawton, if they don't feel he's a continued fit here down the road, if they get a good enough return from a team like New York, very well could be something that we see. But again, I think it's a little less likely. There's been reportedly other teams showing interest in this player. I was surprised to hear the Rangers pop up as somebody who has a lot of interest, but we'll see. I know Jeff Merrick was high in the Buffalo Sabres being a fit as well. For Lawton be on the Flyers and go to a team that's out of the playoffs, I guess for the future he might make sense for them. But you think if that's the case, then maybe the Sabres would maybe try to wait. But I guess if they feel like he's going to get dealt, and if they don't do it now, they won't be able to do it at all. Kind of makes sense. I guess we'll have to see. Marc-Andre Fleury, of course, great goaltender. A lot of speculation this is going to be the end for him. Minnesota, at this point, continues to trend towards not being a playoff team. Again, they're not completely out of it. Things could change. Insiders, including TSN's Pierre LeBrun, believes he and Bill Guerin have, or will have some conversations. I believe there's been some preliminary talks, but nothing to the point where a decision's been made. But essentially, I know I've seen some people say that Fleury doesn't want to get moved out of Minnesota. And, I'm sure for the most part, that's probably how he's felt. But it's likely going to be, according to them, that Guerin will approach him, and that there's going to be some conversations, and he'd only send him somewheres that he would want to go. Obviously, his contract and his trade protection does dictate some of that as well. But clearly, there was 2 or 3 teams mentioned as being likely suitors for his services, including the Avalanche, the Maple Leafs, and the Canes. Out of those 3, I think the Canes are the least likely. They are expected to get Freddie Anderson back. We don't have an exact timeline on that, but I would think that Anderson's imminent return would likely dissipate those rumors, and we're looking at the Avs make a ton of sense for him, and the Leafs to some degree. I mean, in Toronto, Samsonov's been hot and cold, been better as of late for sure. Jones hasn't been quite as good as he was early on. Hildeby's young. We don't know when Joseph Woll's coming back exactly. There's just a lot of uncertainty to bring in a veteran like Fleury to be, a solid number 2. But here's the thing, we don't know how well Samsonov's going to play down the stretch. If Joseph Woll's ready, I think it's important to get him some playoff experience if you can. So do they need another goalie? I'm not entirely convinced they do. I do think it's possible, though. It really boils down to a lot of other factors getting closer to the deadline. But I think more than anything, the team needs secondary scoring. But if they can, manage to swing it with their cap and without dealing too many assets, then yeah, maybe some depth at goaltending might not be terrible. But I think a team like the Avalanche are more likely, given where their things are at with their goaltending situation, and they're pushed for hopefully a second Stanley Cup here in recent memory. So we'll see. But it's going to be up to Fleury. He won't go anywhere if he doesn't want to, but it's believed those are the teams that are, believe that might have a chance if indeed he decides to do that. Speaking of goalies, Eric Francis, who covers the Flames for Sportsnet, does believe that the Jacob Markstrom trade with the Flames and Devils is not dead and that discussions continue. And he said he would not be surprised at all if the deal does happen before the deadline. But he said he wouldn't even be shocked if the deal happened within the next week. We know the Devils are anxious to get ahead of the game here and get a deal done for a more solid starting goaltender. Nico Dodds has been good lately, but do they want to put all that pressure on him going into the playoffs if they can get there? Adding a veteran like Markstrom would be a big weight off their shoulders to let him kind of run with the spot. Dawes can certainly be a solid number 2. The Schmid's in the minors. Maybe they part ways with Vanacek. I'm not sure what they do, but might be the way for them to go here. But certainly we don't know exactly what the deal was. It's believed that the major holdup before was salary retention, which could mean that they're working on bringing a third party in to be that salary retention team if the Flames and ownership will not agree to do that for the deal to go through. Obviously, he's got multiple years on his contract, so it's understandable why they would be a little hesitant to do something like that. But at the same time, if they really want to move him and to get a good return, it's going to be necessary. Unfortunately, just in the current marketplace of the NHL, given all the tight teams with very limited salary cap availability. So, it's believed it's likely going to be a player like Alexander Holtz, likely going the other way to be the centerpiece. He would not be the only player involved there. There was also some talk that there could have been another piece or so on the Flame side as well. Some thought maybe one of their defensemen could be involved because the Devils are interested in that as well, or could be another depth piece, with Markstrom kind of being the centerpiece. I think things would probably get too expensive for Jersey to get Markstrom and either Tanev or Hanifin out of the Flames organization. They're looking at multiple first-round picks, and I don't know that they're going to do that. That is a lot for one team to give up in one deal. Make matters worse and kind of question his future. Today didn't go well for the Flames at all. They get thumped by the Detroit Red Wings. After giving up, I believe it was 4 or 5 goals, Markstrom was pulled, went off the ice, slammed his stick. It just had bad body language, was obviously not in a good spot. After the game, he was asked about his future as well and didn't really want to get into it. Said he'd just come off a game where he was pulled in the second period and the team lost, and it was just poor timing, he said, on the reporter's part for even bringing that up. But it's believed, based on a number of reports, that he's more than happy to waive his no trade clause for the right situation, and it seemed like he already had said yes to New Jersey before. It's just a matter of getting the deal accepted on the Flames side to pull the trigger. So if they're still having conversations and there's still hope, then I can't imagine that it seems likely that this is going to happen. It's just a matter of when and exactly how they make it work. Not a given by any means, but they want it to happen bad enough and they're working hard enough at it. It's bound to likely come together. So let me know your thoughts on all of today's news and rumors down in the comments, and we'll discuss further. If you're new to the channel, of course, make sure you subscribe and stick around. We'll keep you up to date with the latest news, rumors, and analysis on all 32 NHL teams. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time.